Hello and welcome to all of our Gold viewers who are here with us today. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and one of the MCs here at Gold. And here at Gold, we're busy getting ready for our Gold Lactation online conference. And today with me, I have Marta Guoth-Gumberger. Hi, Marta. It's good to have you here today.
Hi, Kristen. Nice to meet you today.
It's wonderful to have you here. Your presentation is titled From Anatomy to Function, the Biomechanics of the Tongue and its Influence on Breastfeeding. So I'm really looking forward to this presentation because I had a little sneak peek of all your beautiful PowerPoints and some of the material. But before we jump into that, I want to learn a bit more about you. Let us know where you are in the world and tell us about your professional background.
Yeah. I live in the south of Germany in a small town, and my professional background is that I work in a private practice. I have my own private practice as an IBCLC, and I'm IBCLC now for 25 years. And in private practice, it's just normal that the special situations show up, and I love the families and the babies to work with them. And I have more training in emotional work and therapeutical work, and also the pre and perinatal stuff. I like that also very much. And my profession of origin is civil engineering, so I come from an analytical background, and the combination, I like it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The analytical background, yes. So you are able to see really complex things, and package them into something that is really understandable, right? And this is one of the things you are trying to accomplish here with us for that conference and for your presentation. So tell me a little bit about this from anatomy to function, the biomechanics of the tongue and its influence on breastfeeding. Tell me a little bit about your presentation here.
So being IBCLC for a long time, of course, we know about the tongue, and somehow the movement of the tongue, we took the tongue as a block, the whole tongue as a whole thing. And for 2 years now, I'm studying the anatomy, and I'm absolutely fascinated of this detailed anatomy of the tongue. It is so complex, and my aim in the presentation is to put it in such a way that it becomes understandable and that we get this fascination of this anatomy and how to protect the anatomy that it supports breastfeeding. And it is such a fine regulation of the tongue muscles, how they work together. And you need to understand first what is there inside in the tongue and how are the movements done. And then to understand this miracle, how this works. And to make it in such a way in drawings, I love to make the drawings. And I learned a lot by that, and I wanted to put it in such a way that it is understandable for somebody who didn't study anatomy for the whole of the life, yeah.
Right, yes.
For breastfeeding people, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And you have beautiful drawings there, lots of great images and pictures. So really, really educational right there. Let me ask you this. How can, looking at the tongue and tongue mobility and tongue function, we know it's important for breastfeeding. What would you say, how can healthcare providers, IBCLCs, providers better assess the tongue mobility when they're looking at a baby? What is that you look for when you look at a baby and tongue mobility?
First I look whether the tongue moves a lot, whether the movement is fluent, whether the movement shows diversity, coming out, flattening, moving upwards, and so that the different types of movements are possible, which is not obvious, and it's not the case for all of the babies. And of course, if you watch a breastfeeding baby, from outside you see already a lot what happens in the mouth by whether it is very active and relaxed and active at the same time, or the baby is really struggling, yeah, and it's frustrated. So you see it from outside as well, yeah.
Okay, great. So looking at the tongue, making sure like lots of movement, fluid movements, right? Now, have a little.
They come
Yeah.
in the door, and I watch it already, yeah. And
Yes.
sometimes I see it in the first moment. Okay, this baby is struggling, or others, they do a lot of movement outside and like this, and then you say, okay, the tongue is really quite competent, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Quite competent, yes. And there's certain things you will also describe in the presentation. Of course, we've all heard about also tongue tie. That, of course, is one of the things that really inhibits tongue mobility as well, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, this is now not the main. This is not the topic of this
Right.
presentation. This would be something else. But the tongue, the limitation by a frenulum, which is too short, is one part of the movement. But the tongue as a whole is big, and there is quite a bit of compensation possible as well. Yeah. So it's not just the one thing. It is complex things of other things too.
Very complex, yes, and you know, there's as you mentioned, it is fascinating learning about it and looking at it. I can also understand that you know, artificial nipples and bottles, they also influence how the tongue you know, works, right? And that tongue, and I assume that tongue biomechanics might be quite different, right, for a bottle-fed baby than for a breastfed baby.
That is definitely the case, because the breast is really a flexible counterpart. It's the normal counterpart for the tongue, and the breast adjusts to the tongue, whereas the nipple is not able to do that. So the tongue and the breast, you know, they have impulses to each other. And so this is how the learning process, which works in many feedback loops, is always improved and improved. And the tongue and breastfeeding is the best preparation for the later tasks of the tongue, which is then speech and solids, of course, but especially speech, which is, you know, we need the tongue for speech very much. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense the way you describe it there as well. And so let me, first of all, I want to not forget to mention you are also an author, right? You are an author of books. So tell me about this book. And there's something new coming out in May. So tell us a little bit about that as well.
So I've written a breastfeeding book together with Elizabeth Horman. Somebody might know her. The first edition was 2000, and now we had a complete overhaul, a complete new edition with another co-author now, and it will come out in May. And it's a breastfeeding book for mothers. And the previous editions have been translated into several languages as well. Yeah. And the newest book contains also the present state of art of breastfeeding. You know, there have been some new changes in the last years. Yeah. Yeah, and I've written another book also in German on weight gain and breastfeeding. This is for professionals. Yeah. It's
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it's wonderful to have authors here with us as well. Okay, so Marta, before I let you go, what are you hoping that our viewers will take away from this presentation after watching this presentation?
my main hope is that they share a little bit of this fascination, how nature works, how this is all created, that the baby can do this wonderful job of breastfeeding and getting out the milk and build up the milk supply of the mother and grow himself, and how we can support it. And that the conclusions on breastfeeding are known things which we know already ahead of time. For example, why it is so important to give the baby and the mother much time to practice and no disturbance and nothing which hinders the process, and only breast in the mouth. We know it, but you will understand it in a different way why this is such an important thing, and why, you know, a nipple shield or a bottle nipple in the first days makes really a challenge to the baby. Yeah. And makes it much more difficult to the baby. So to motivate you in all those things you anyhow know, but know another additional reason why this is important.
Another additional, and also, you know, this deep knowledge of like understanding the complex function of the tongue. You are able to really kind of package it nicely and in understandable and terms that makes really sense. Well, Marta, thank you so much for being here with me today, talking about the wonderful work you're doing and your books, and of course the presentation here for our Gold Lactation Conference. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Christine. Thank you.
And now some information for our viewers. The presentation from Anatomy to Function, the biomechanics of the tongue and its influence on breastfeeding is part of our Gold Lactation online conference here at Gold. We get started actually next week with our opening keynote presentation. That opening keynote presentation is open access, available and free of charge to everyone. So make sure you check that one out as well. And you find all the information at goldlactation.com, where you can find the information about this presentation, the keynote, and all the other presentations as well. So I hope to see everyone at the conference. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye, everyone.